Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. Leave your comments and impressions, I value your opinion. The room is dimly lit, only a sliver of moonlight sneaking in through the slightly parted curtains. I crouch behind the large oak wardrobe, its age-old wood creaking softly as I shift my weight. My heart pounds in my chest like a drumbeat, each thud echoing the betrayal I discovered just days ago. Tonight, I lay in ambush, patiently waiting for my cheating wife and her lover to arrive. Every second drags on, the silence of our suburban house almost deafening. I've chosen this spot carefully. From here, I have a clear view of the bed, the place where our vows were supposed to be sacred. But now, it's become a stage for their deceit. The door downstairs creaks open, and my breath catches. Footsteps, light and familiar, approach. I tighten my grip on the baseball bat I brought with me, the cold metal reassuring against my sweaty palms. The voices reach me next, hers, soft and teasing, his, deep and confident. Their laughter bubbles up, an affront to the pain gnawing at my insides. "He's gone for the weekend," she whispers, her voice a mixture of relief and excitement. "I told him I was visiting my sister." "Perfect," he replies, his tone dripping with smuggness. "I'm sure this fool won't get to us, let alone expose us." Their words fuel my anger, stoking the flames of my rage. I've heard enough. With a deep breath, I burst out of my hiding place, the bat raised high above my head. Now I will show what my anger is capable of. I shout, my voice echoing off the walls. They both freeze, eyes wide in shock. My wife, Emily, steps back, her face a mask of horror. The man, tall and muscular, instinctively moves in front of her, shielding her with his body. "David, wait. This isn't what it looks like," Emily pleads, her voice shaking. "Isn't what it looks like." I laugh, the sound bitter and hollow. "Do you take me for a fool, Emily? I've heard everything." Her lover, whose name I don't even care to know, takes a step forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "Look, man. Let's talk about this. You don't want to do anything you'll regret." "Regret?" The word stings. The only regret I have is trusting her, believing in our marriage. I tighten my grip on the bat, my knuckles turning white. "Get out of my house. Both of you." Emily's eyes well up with tears. "David, please, we can work through this, I'm so sorry." I lower the bat slightly, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. My anger is a living thing, but beneath it lies a deep, soul-crushing sadness. "Work through this? You've destroyed everything. There's no coming back from this." Her lover tries again, stepping closer. "David, let her explain. You need to hear her out." I shake my head, backing away towards the door. "I don't need to hear anything else. Just leave. Now." Emily sobs, her shoulders shaking. "David, I love you. I made a mistake, but I still love you." Her words are like knives, each one cutting deeper than the last. I turn away, unable to bear the sight of her tears, her betrayal. "Love? You don't know the meaning of the word." They leave, their footsteps fading into the night. I'm left alone in the darkened room, the bat slipping from my grasp to clatter on the floor. I sink to my knees, the reality of what's happened crashing down on me. In the silence, the enormity of my decision settles in. My marriage is over, my trust shattered. I thought confronting them would bring closure, but all it's done is open new wounds. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear. I can't stay here, in this house filled with memories of a love that was never real. I stand up, my legs shaky but determined. There's no going back. It's time to move forward, to find a new path. And I'll start by leaving this place behind, the scene of my greatest heartbreak. I grab a suitcase from under the bed, throwing in clothes and essentials with trembling hands. As I close the suitcase, I take one last look around the room. It's strange how quickly a place can go from being a home to just a house. With a heavy heart, I turn off the lights and walk out the door, leaving behind the life I once knew. The night air is cool against my face, a small comfort in the midst of my turmoil. I load the suitcase into the trunk of my car and slide into the driver's seat. As I drive away, the house grows smaller in the rearview mirror, a symbol of my past fading into the distance. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat, a message from Emily. I don't read it. There's nothing left to say. I toss the phone onto the back seat and focus on the road ahead, the future unknown but full of possibilities. The road stretches out before me, a blank canvas waiting to be filled. I don't know where I'm going, but I know one thing for certain. I'm not looking back. Not anymore. The journey has just begun. The hum of the tires against the asphalt is the only sound breaking the silence as I drive away from my shattered life. The clock on the dashboard reads 2:30 a.m. Sleep is a distant thought, replaced by a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness. I need a place to think, to figure out what comes next. I pull into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. The neon sign flickers, casting a pale blue glow over the empty lot. Inside, a few late-night patrons sit scattered among the booths, their faces tired and lined with the weariness of the hour. I choose a corner booth, away from prying eyes. A waitress approaches, her name tag reads Samantha. She looks to be in her late 40s, with a kind but worn face. "What can I get you, hon?" she asks, her voice gentle. "Just a coffee, thanks," I reply, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. She nods and returns moments later with a steaming cup. "Rough night?" she asks, not unkindly. I manage a weak smile. "You could say that." She gives me a sympathetic look before moving on to another table. I wrap my hands around the cup, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. My mind races, trying to process everything that's happened. "David?" A familiar voice breaks through my thoughts. I look up to see Mark, an old friend from college, standing by my booth. He looks surprised but genuinely happy to see me. "Mark, what are you doing here?" I'd ask, motioning for him to sit. He slides into the seat across from me. "I could ask you the same thing. Just finished a late shift. You look like you've been through hell." I sigh, running a hand through my hair. "You have no idea. Emily, she's been cheating on me." Mark's eyes widen in shock. "No way. I'm sorry, man. That's tough." "Yeah," I say, the word feeling inadequate to describe the turmoil inside me. "Caught them tonight, threw them out. I had to get away." Mark shakes his head. "That's rough. But hey, you're not alone. We got your back. How about you crash at my place for a few days? Clear your head." I nod, grateful for the offer. "Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it." As we're talking, the diner door swings open and two men walk in. They're tall, well-built, and their eyes scan the room with practiced precision. Something about them sets me on edge. One of them locks eyes with me and nudges his companion. They start making their way toward us. "Do you know them?" I whisper to Mark, trying to keep my voice steady. Mark turns to look, his expression darkening. "No, but they don't look friendly." The men reach our table, and the one who made eye contact with me speaks first. "David Clark?" I nod, my pulse quickening. "Who's asking?" The man smirks. "Names don't matter. We've been looking for you." Mark shifts in his seat, ready to intervene. "What do you want with him?" The second man, larger and more intimidating, steps forward. "We're here to deliver a message. Stay out of things that don't concern you." I glance at Mark, confused. "I don't know what you're talking about." The first man leans in, his face inches from mine. "You will soon enough. Just remember, some secrets are better left buried." With that, they turn and leave, their presence lingering like a dark cloud. Mark and I sit in stunned silence, trying to process what just happened. "Who the hell were they?" I ask, my voice shaky. Mark shakes his head. "I don't know, but we need to find out. This is bigger than just your marriage, David." The waitress, Samantha, returns with a nervous smile. "Everything okay here?" I nod, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just a misunderstanding." She doesn't look convinced but leaves us alone. I turn back to Mark. "What now?" He leans forward, his expression serious. "We dig. We find out who those guys are and what they want. But first, let's get you somewhere safe." We pay the bill and leave the diner, the cool night air a stark contrast to the warmth inside. Mark leads me to his car, a beat-up old sit-in, and we drive in silence to his apartment on the other side of town. As we pull up, I notice a light on in one of the windows. "My roommate's probably still up," Mark says, unlocking the door. "He's a night owl. Don't worry, he's cool." Inside, the apartment is small but cozy. A young man, probably in his mid-20s, looks up from his laptop as we enter. "Hey, Mark, who's this?" "This is David," Mark says. "He's staying with us for a few days." The roommate, Alex, nods and extends a hand. "Nice to meet you, David. Heard you had a rough night." I shake his hand, grateful for the hospitality. Thanks for letting me crash here. No problem, Alex replies. You hungry? I was about to make some food. My stomach rumbles in response, reminding me I haven't eaten since lunch. Yeah, actually, that'd be great. As Alex heads to the kitchen, Mark pulls me aside. Listen, we'll start digging first thing in the morning. Get some rest. You're safe here. I nod, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time tonight, I feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I can get through this. But the threat from those men looms large in my mind, and I know we've only just scratched the surface of something much bigger. As I lie on the couch, the events of the night replaying in my mind, sleep finally claims me. The morning will bring new challenges, but for now, I allow myself a moment of peace in the midst of the chaos. The morning sunlight filters through the blinds, casting thin lines across my face. I wake up on Mark's couch, momentarily disoriented before the events of last night come crashing back. Emily's betrayal, the confrontation, the mysterious men. It all feels like a bad dream, but the ache in my chest tells me it's all too real. Mark is already up, sitting at the small kitchen table with his laptop open. He looks up as I sit up, stretching a stiffness from my limbs. Morning, he says, pushing a cup of coffee towards me. You look like you could use this. Thanks, I mutter, taking a grateful sip. Did you find anything? He nods, his expression serious. I did some digging. Those guys from last night? They're connected to a pretty shady operation. Rumor has it they're enforcers for a guy named Vincent Moretti. He's got fingers in a lot of illegal pies, gambling, drugs, you name it. I frown, trying to connect the dots. But why would they come after me? Mark shakes his head. That's the part I'm not sure about. Did Emily ever mention anything about him? I rack my brain, but nothing comes to mind. No, she didn't. Our life was normal, or so I thought. Alex, Mark's roommate, joins us, a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in hand. Morning, David. Mark filled me in a bit. Sounds like you're in some deep shit. Yeah. I agree, feeling the weight of it all. Any ideas? Alex takes a bite of his toast, thinking, we need more information. Maybe Emily knows something she didn't share with you. The thought of talking to her again makes my stomach churn, but I know they're right. I'll call her, I say, reaching for my phone. Mark puts a hand on my arm, stopping me. Do it here on speaker. We need to hear what she says. I nod, dialing her number. It rings several times before she picks up, her voice groggy. David? Emily, we need to talk. I say, trying to keep my voice steady. David, I'm so sorry. This isn't about that, I interrupt, the urgency in my voice shutting her up. Last night, after you left, 2 men showed up. They knew my name. They threatened me. There's a pause, then her voice comes back, laced with fear. Vincent. What? I ask, leaning forward. Vincent Moretti, she says, her voice trembling. I didn't want you to find out, but I owe him money. A lot of money. Mark and Alex exchange glances. How much? I ask, dread pooling in my stomach. 50,000, she whispers. I got involved in some bad stuff. I was desperate, David. I'm so sorry. I close my eyes, trying to process this new information. Why didn't you tell me? I thought I could handle it. I thought. She breaks off, her voice cracking. I was wrong. Mark leans forward, his voice calm but firm. Emily, you need to tell us everything. Who is Vincent? What does he want? She takes a deep breath. Vincent Moretti is a loan shark. I borrowed money from him to cover some debts. When I couldn't pay it back, he started making threats. That's when I met Alex. I stiffen. Alex? He said he could help me get the money to pay off Vincent, she explains, her voice small. But it got out of control. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. So now Vincent thinks I'm involved. I say, the realization hitting me hard. What do we do? You need to stay away from him, she pleads. He's dangerous, David. Please, just stay safe. I end the call, my mind racing. This is a mess. Mark stands, determination in his eyes. We need to find Vincent. Confront him. Maybe we can make him back off. Alex looks skeptical. And how do you propose we do that? Walk up and knock on his door. Something like that, Mark says, but we need a plan. The three of us spend the next few hours brainstorming, trying to come up with a strategy. By noon, we have a rough outline. We'll start by tracking down Vincent's known associates, gathering as much information as we can before making our move. Our first lead takes us to a rundown bar on the outskirts of town, a place known for its unsavory clientele. We step inside, the smell of stale beer and smoke hitting me immediately. The bartender, a burly man with a thick beard, eyes us warily. We're looking for information on Vincent Moretti, Mark says, his tone confident. The bartender raises an eyebrow. And who are you? Friends of Emily, I say, trying to sound tougher than I feel. We need to find him. The mention of Emily's name gets his attention. He leans in, lowering his voice. Vincent doesn't like people asking questions. You're playing a dangerous game. We don't have a choice. I reply, meeting his gaze. Please, can you help us? He studies us for a moment, then nods. There's a guy, Tony, who might know something. Hangs out in the back room, but be careful. Tony's not exactly friendly. We thank him and head to the back, my heart pounding. The door creaks open to reveal a smoky room with a group of men playing cards. One of them, a lean man with a scar across his cheek, looks up as we enter. Tony? Mark asks, stepping forward. Tony's eyes narrow. Who's asking? We need information on Vincent Moretti, I say, trying to sound confident. Tony laughs, a harsh sound. You and everyone else. What makes you think I'll help you? Because we're desperate, I say, my voice shaking despite my efforts. And because Emily's involved. His expression changes at the mention of Emily's name. Emily, huh? She owes Vincent a lot of money. We know, Mark says. We're trying to find a way to settle things. Tony leans back, considering. All right. I'll tell you what I know, but it'll cost you. What do you want? Alex asks, stepping forward. Information, Tony says, his eyes gleaming. There's a cop who's been sniffing around, asking questions about Vincent. I want to know who he is and what he's after. We exchange glances. It's a risky trade, but we don't have many options. Deal, I say, extending a hand. Tony shakes it, his grip firm. You find out what I want, and I'll tell you what you need to know. As we leave the bar, the weight of our task settles over us. We're stepping into dangerous territory, but there's no turning back. The clock is ticking, and Vincent Moretti is a threat we can't afford to ignore. The journey ahead is uncertain, but we're in it together, and for the first time, I feel a flicker of hope. We might just get through this if we play our cards right. The weight of Tony's demand presses on us as we leave the bar. The next steps are clear but fraught with danger. We need to find this cop, figure out what he knows, and relay it back to Tony. Only then can we hope to get the information we need about Vincent Moretti. Mark drives us to the precinct where we start our search. We park a few blocks away, opting to approach on foot to avoid drawing attention. The bustling activity around the station reminds me of the stakes. The city moves on, unaware of the deadly game we're playing. We sit at a nearby cafe, watching the comings and goings of officers. Alex sips his coffee, his eyes scanning the crowd. We need to be careful, he says. One wrong move, and we're screwed. Mark nods, leaning back in his chair. Agreed, but we don't have a choice. Keep your eyes peeled. After what feels like hours, a man in plain clothes exits the station, his demeanor different from the uniformed officers. He's tall, with a lean build and an air of determination. Mark nudges me. That's our guy. We follow at a distance, peeping to the shadows. He moves quickly, weaving through the city streets until he reaches a small diner. We wait a few moments before entering, taking a booth where we can observe without being obvious. The man orders a coffee and pulls out a notebook, flipping through its pages. I signal to the waitress, ordering a round of drinks to buy us more time. Alex leans in, whispering, "How do we approach this?" Mark thinks for a moment. We need to be direct but careful. Let's see if we can strike up a conversation. As luck would have it, the man's phone rings and he steps outside to take the call. Mark gestures for us to follow, and we exit the diner, catching snippets of his conversation. Yeah. I'm still looking into Moretti, he says, his voice low but intense. No, nothing concrete yet, but I've got a lead. Mark steps forward, clearing his throat. Excuse me, are you Officer Johnson? The man turns, his eyes narrowing. Who's asking? Friends of Emily, I say quickly, we need to talk. Johnson's expression shifts to one of caution. Emily? What do you know about Emily? We know she's in trouble, Alex says. And we're trying to help. But we need your help too. Johnson studies us for a moment, then nods. All right, talk. We find a quiet corner, and I explain everything. Emily's debt, the threats, Tony's demand. Johnson listens, his face growing more serious by the minute. Moretti is dangerous, he says finally. He's got connections everywhere. If you're mixed up with him, you're in deep. We know. I reply. But we don't have a choice. We need information about you. What you're investigating. Johnson sighs. I'm trying to build a case against Moretti. He's been untouchable for years, but I've got a witness. Someone inside his operation willing to testify. Problem is, they're scared for their life. Mark leans in. Who's the witness? Johnson hesitates, then shakes his head. I can't tell you that. It's too risky. Please, I say, desperation in my voice. We're running out of time. He looks at me, weighing his options. All right. Her name's Lisa. She's one of Moretti's bookkeepers. She's seen enough to put him away for life. But she's in hiding. If Moretti finds out she's talking to the cops. Where is she? Alex asks. She's staying at a safe house on the outskirts of town, Johnson says, scribbling an address on a napkin. But you didn't get this from me, understand? We nod, taking the napkin. Thank you, I say. We'll take it from here. As we leave, Johnson grabs my arm. Be careful. Moretti won't hesitate to kill anyone who crosses him. The drive to the safe house is tense, the weight of Johnson's words heavy on our minds. We arrive at a secluded cabin, hidden among the trees. The place is eerily quiet, and a sense of foreboding hangs in the air. We approach cautiously, Mark leading the way. He knocks on the door, and after a moment, it opens a crack. A woman's face appears, her eyes wide with fear. Who are you? We're friends, Mark says quickly. We're here to help. She hesitates, then opens the door fully, revealing a petite woman with dark hair and tired eyes. Lisa? She nods, glancing around nervously. You shouldn't be here. If Moretti finds out. We know the risks, I say. But we need your help. We're trying to find a way to stop him. She bites her lip, then steps aside, letting us in. The cabin is small but cozy, a fire crackling in the hearth. We sit around a worn table and Lisa begins to speak, her voice trembling. Moretti is ruthless, she says. He controls everything, money, drugs, people. I've seen him ruin lives without a second thought. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get out. What can you tell us about his operation? Alex asks. She takes a deep breath. I handle the books. I know where the money comes from, where it goes. I've got records, proof of everything. It's enough to bring him down, but I need protection. We can get you that, Mark says, but we need those records. She nods, standing and moving to a hidden panel in the wall. She retrieves a stack of ledgers and hands them to us. This is everything, but be careful. If Moretti finds out you have these, he'll come after you. As we prepare to leave, there's a sudden noise outside, the crunch of gravel underfoot. Lisa's face drains of color. He's here. The door bursts open, and Vincent Moretti himself strides in, flanked by the two men from the diner. His eyes lock onto us, and a cold smile spreads across his face. Well, what do we have here? Run. I shout to Lisa as Mark and Alex move to block Moretti's men. Chaos erupts as we struggle to fight them off. The confined space making every movement critical. Moretti grabs Lisa, dragging her towards the door. You're coming with me, he snarls. You think you can betray me? I lunge forward, tackling him to the ground. We grapple, fists flying, but Moretti is stronger, fueled by rage. He pins me down, his hand wrapping around my throat. You're a fool, he hisses. You have no idea what you're dealing with. A loud crash echoes through the cabin, and suddenly, Johnson is there, gun drawn. Freeze, Moretti. Moretti hesitates, his grip loosening just enough for me to break free. Johnson steps forward, his expression steely. It's over, Vincent. Let her go. Moretti glares at him, but he knows he's beaten. He releases Lisa and raises his hands. This isn't the end, he warns. I'll be back. Johnson cuffs him, leading him out as backup arrives to secure the scene. We help Lisa to her feet, her body trembling with relief. Thank you, she whispers. You saved my life. Just glad we got here in time, I say, my voice hoarse. As the police take Moretti away, the reality of what we've done sinks in. We've brought down a dangerous man, but the cost has been high. I turn to Mark and Alex, gratitude and exhaustion mainly in my eyes. We did it. Mark claps me on the shoulder. Damn right we did. But let's not do it again anytime soon. We laugh, the sound a release of all the tension we've carried. Lisa smiles, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Maybe now, I can start over. Thanks to you. As we drive away from the cabin, the sun rises on a new day. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're heading in the right direction. We face the darkness and come out the other side, stronger and more united than before. And as we move forward, I know one thing for sure. We got each other's backs, no matter what. The journey isn't over, but we're ready for whatever comes next.